Hi, welcome back to my channel. I just watched this really informative video by this guy who's actually, I think he's a therapist, and basically I thought it was really interesting what he was talking about, and he basically went into like toxic family dynamics, things like triangulation, manipulation, having like a surrogate spouse in the relationship, codependency, and parentification, which can be taken into like adulthood. So if you're doing like, if it's like parentification, for example, in a family, it might be like a child wanting to be a parent to another child, or in adulthood that can come across in the same way with like friends, or even in childhood it can be the same. So but it's really interesting because as you evolve either out of this dynamic with like therapy, or you just manage to get out of it for whatever reason, you can still have these effects, which I was going to go through. So you might, if you've had any of these issues within a family dynamic, you might have the role of a caretaker, and you might only like relate to other people as being like a fixer, and like not as like regular friend dynamics. And like even with like partners, you might not be able to like relate to partners sometimes if it's not just part of a caretaker, like like a fixer kind of dynamic, like a healer kind of dynamic. Like you might not be able to relate to people like that if it's not involved with that, if you've had this kind of a dynamic as a child and you haven't fully gotten over it yet. So basically you might take people on as like projects and like not fully accept them for their full selves. You might just want to sort of fix them and heal them and change them, and it's kind of not always healthy, because a part of healing from this like state is to let people fail sometimes. Because like as a child, if you were caught up in all that drama of like you want to take on someone else's problems, probably as like a valid thing, because at that time you felt that was the way that you were going to get through your life. It was like a coping strategy. But as you're away from that, it's best to like evolve for it, and by doing that obviously you've got to like let people fail and not have to be like the fixer for everyone, and like not like accepting people fully, because obviously part of a healthy relationship is to accept a person fully and not like just see them for their things that you can help them with, because again it's just copying childhood patterns. So obviously as well, if you're using someone as a project and you pick like immature partners, which is another thing that you can do, it's not going to be nice, because they're not going to want to change in the way that you want them to change. So then there's going to be a hell of a lot of frustration for you and them. Obviously that's not healthy ever to do, really. I'm not saying it's not good to help people out with stuff, but it's about the way you do it. Like, so yeah, and it might be hard to realise dysfunction in a person sometimes, because like you just haven't been able to really get discernment over this. If you still got, they say like if you haven't fixed your compass, you get a certain calibration from a compass in childhood, and if you haven't sort of like recalibrated that compass, you obviously haven't got any discernment against things that are off. There we go. So yeah, like lack of bullshit detection, basically. You might overshare or want like really fast relationships that are really intimate, so you don't like, so it's obviously like mimicking this potentially like codependency role that you would have had with another family person. And also you might really dislike gossip because it's not very intimate and it's just like a direct sort of mismatch of energy. So I thought this was really interesting. Obviously this can work between any sort of family dynamic and childhood dynamic, for whatever that means. I always like to get educated on the stuff so you can be more empathic and understanding of people, but I definitely got some of this stuff applied to me, but it's obviously individual. Thanks for listening, bye.